there, welcome to my channel. My name is Margaret Pinard and you're on BookTube. This is my first premiere, so hello if you're here live and welcome. This is a video that's going to be taking a few clips from other people, but also just about my thoughts about home and place. First of all, I'll comment on the jingle jangle. I thought I'd get into a little holiday mood because this is going to be going up the weekend before Thanksgiving in America. I won't be able to hang this on my door as usual, so I thought I'd just introduce it into a video. How did I get started on this idea of home? Well, I was looking for an idea for the panel that I'm going to put on for Yola Book of Flood PDX, which is the literary festival that I'm helping run with Elle Mitchell. It's going on December 18th through the 20th, so definitely put that on your calendars. There's a separate YouTube channel we're going to be using for the broadcasts, and there's going to be all sorts of interesting talks and panels and authors, so there's that. I am going to be on 2 of those panels, and the one that I was instigating, I originally thought I wanted to do something with setting. I'd had a lot of interesting inputs this year over place and ownership and belonging when I was attending talks, especially at the Oregon Historical Society. So hats off to OHS. They put together a lot of really great discussions about history, the history of the state and the nation, and a lot of progressive ideas about how do we handle where we are now, because we didn't get here in a very good way. There was one, and I've tried to look for it, and I can't find which panel it was, but I remember watching a video of someone saying, it was an indigenous speaker, and I think author, and they were talking about place and how it was someone in the Southwest saying they've been here. Their people have lived in this area for thousands of years, and so they're, physically adapted to the high temperatures, dry heat, flat land, like whatever is needed to survive in that environment. Whereas people who come in, settler colonialists, are not, and so they have to do all sorts of things to try to make that palatable to them. Air conditioning, electricity, all these things, changing their environments. And this is like a huge game changer of a discussion, because this is about the human's relationship with nature as much as it is who belongs where and who does the land belong to. To whom does the land belong? So that's been in my mind, but it also comes up against my feelings as an author writing about places that call to me and enchant my thinking, like Scotland does. So there's an interesting interrelationship between yearning for a certain place and feeling like you don't belong. So for example, if I feel like I'm called to be in a place like Scotland, which has got highlands and mists and lochs and greenery year-round, that sort of climate is what I feel fed by, or where I fit in. I got pretty close. Portland, Oregon, the Pacific Northwest, is pretty close to it, but why is that? Is that something in my DNA that's saying my body and my mind and my spirit are adapted to something different than where I am, which is California, because I grew up in California? Is that part of why there's an uneasiness about where I live currently? The bigger questions are people, not just me, but people in general. How does that hit you when you hear that? Do you yearn for a place other than where you are? And do you feel like you fit in where you are now? And what does that say to you? Could be an interesting topic for discussion. There's all these issues that America has that have been handled differently in Canada, in Norway. Just side note, I was watching a video about Frozen 2 and the musical history background to this, and they pointed out that Norway's president, had issued a formal apology like 30 years ago to the Sami culture, which they had tried to erase and, what's it called? Not acculturation. And they knew it was wrong, and so they apologized, and they gave restitution. They, like, gave them money, realizing that they had done wrong. And this is like 100 years later. So anyway, the U.S. has acted very differently in these types of transgressions. And I, as a white colonial settler here in the West, am part of that crowd that needs to figure out how do we handle this and how do we behave. It's part of a larger discussion of privilege as well, but for the moment I am learning lots about Indigenous viewpoints with Indigathon, reading lots of books. I think by the time this goes up I will already have done my mid-month check-in with plenty of Indigenous authors, and I might have one or two more after that for the end of November's wrap-up. Home, home, home. So individually, I think of home in a lot of different ways. Sentimentally, it's the house I grew up in. So San Luis Obispo, Victorian house near downtown. There's a lot of things that come along with that color the experience of my growing up. So that's comfortable. And I think I will return to that. In a little bit broader brushstrokes, home, I think, should also encompass the idea of living in harmony with your neighbors, not only the people on the left and the right and across from you, but neighboring towns, people who share your water resources, people who live along a pipeline that delivers oil to you that you use. I mean, there's a lot of ways that people in different places relate to each other that it could be somebody's job to think through. I mean, that's sort of like part of sustainability. Wow, I'm really rambling all over all of my favorite subjects in this video. So my view of home starts with a house and walkability and harmony, and then reaches out to encompass how do I support myself and which communities do I spend time with, and it makes it a much bigger question than just where you go for the holidays. I would love to live in Scotland. I think I would fit in okay there. What I've read and watched in terms of the hominess, or the homeliness as they would say, mostly pertains to the islands, the Hebrides, and the island culture, which is very much more interwoven. So if you live in a city, you're more used to being atomized, to being self-sufficient, supposedly. And I mean, until you look at all the things you depend on that other people deliver. But the island culture in the Hebrides, at least, tends to harken back to traditional society where you have to put politics and personal likes aside to work together because there's only one ferry, or the weather's bad and no one's getting off, or, you know, these things that affect a community of 200 people. I know less about the idiosyncrasies of living in the Highlands or the Lowlands or the Belt, whatever that belt is called, Stirling area. I don't know. If I had the opportunity to live there, I would have to, you know, put the rubber to the road and see if my inclinations hold up or whether they're just sort of a romantic grass is greener on the other side of the fence affair, which could be true as well. And then my theories would take a blow in that case. So I asked and got a couple different answers about home from other people. I got Sarah saying she wants light and nature.
I love that there is a ton of natural light in our main spaces in this house, and that our bedrooms are a little quieter and a little darker. And in my regular, normal morning space, I can see the trees. I've always sort of felt most at home, or I guess where I belong, it's always been with my loved ones. So no matter where we are, that's where home is.
Thank you, Sarah. And then I had Jim, a new booktube friend from Georgia, Tbilisi, Georgia. I don't know if I said that right. That's the closest I can come. And he talked a little bit about his peripatetic journey. He teaches English, so he's been all over the world and had some very exciting adventures, but he explains how he feels which community he belongs to, how he determines that a little bit.
Home. For me, home is a long list of places. I miss living close to the ocean village, and I don't like living in small villages. They're too claustrophobic for me. In Elephant and Castle, we were burgled, so I moved out of London. My parents, they're buried in North Yorkshire, somewhere which is not home for me, as I've never lived there. And my siblings, they're scattered. One is in Cornwall, one in Slough, and one in India. So my concept of home is quite strange.
Thank you, Jim. So, what about you, dear viewer? Do you yearn for a place that you are not currently? And do you feel like you belong in the place you are currently? And what makes up your definition of home? Taking into account what I said about how it can get bigger and bigger, what does that make you think of? How would you want to make your home? Expanding the definition for this November, saying thank you to all the Indigenous teachers that I've been learning from. Just to give you a glimpse, I'm going to do this video next, but woohoo! Got lots of books to go through for halfway, and at the end of the month, I'm sure it will be a little larger. So thanks very much for tuning in, and happy Thanksgiving next week if you're in the US. If you're not home, I hope you're still able to carve some time to reflect on your gratitude and maybe do something that'll move you closer to that ideal home definition. Cheers! Happy start of the holidays, and I'll see you next time.